All right, we are recording, and today we have Brendan from Journey joining us. Brendan, maybe you'd like to take a couple of minutes and just introduce yourself and Journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Charlie. I'm Brendan, one of the founders of Journey. We're building this new storytelling medium that helps salespeople run enterprise deals to create an amazing buying experience for their stakeholders. Been working in technology for the last 15 years. Started off as an individual seller in startups in New York when it wasn't buzzy and hot to do that in 2008. Worked at Facebook before Facebook had a mobile newsfeed and was cutting my teeth selling there. And then various startups in business development and corporate development. Started Journey 2 years ago, and we're venture backed by some amazing investors like Y Combinator, and hundreds of our early users gave us their post-tax commission dollars and invested in Journey. So grateful to them. And yeah, a team of 10 based on the cloud in 5 different time zones. And yeah, excited to chat.
And what was the genesis towards kicking Journey off and starting it? What was there a specific problem that you and your other co-founders faced?
Yeah, absolutely. So I, towards the tail end of my, when I was working at companies, I shifted from selling more to buying more because I was procuring things for the company or the team, as sometimes the champion, if you will, sometimes the just final decision maker. And I felt like when we were spending, $50,000, $100,000 or more on software, the process was just insanely chaotic. We took way too much time internally to evaluate multiple partners, way too many internal meetings, and definitely way too many external sales meetings with all the different partners. So I felt like we were just mired in endless email threads, and the teams were multi-threading with us, and things just took way too long. And I felt like we could shorten this sales cycle for ourselves as the buying team if we just had this one central resource to collaborate internally on the deal. So this happened at Quora. I was leading the business there. Quora is a large Q&A platform, but I was buying a lot for the engineering team and the product team. And we just built a very janky version of Journey kind of internally with my co-founders at the time were at other companies. We had this idea. We put together a prototype in Webflow, and it was kind of just a version 0 of Journey. And our customers really our customers really liked it. So we tested it on the Quora prospects essentially, and it just our sales team kind of liked it, but it was more so focused on the people buying stuff. So Quora advertisers, Quora data partners, that's what we were selling at the time. And then us internally as Quora, as a customer for other solutions, we were packaging up lots of content that we were getting from zillions of email threads and putting it into one place for people to evaluate things. So that was kind of the genesis. And then the initial kind of aha was when our prospects liked it, and the product was it wasn't that great. When you have something that customers kind of like crawl through broken glass to use, like it's not good, you kind of have something to double down on there. And so that's kind of was the first aha that made us start to develop the product. And the next step was then raising money or hiring a team and things like that.
And as you've gone through that, I was going to say the word journey, but as you go through that word through that journey, how has the type of company or user that is using the platform evolved? And have you uncovered new use cases that you hadn't anticipated at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say that it's become a much more horizontal product than we ever had imagined. Like, we first started off, and our first 150 to 100 users were individual salespeople at technology companies that were using it to run a deal process, mainly enterprise sellers who were working on deals that were at least 50K plus in ACV, at least 3 to 7 stakeholders that they were managing in that process. But it morphed pretty quickly into just selling more broadly. So like fundraising kind of became a larger use case, which is essentially selling to a different stakeholder. You're selling to an investor, or venture capitalist, an angel investor, whatever it might be, but you're sharing a bunch of content back and forth, and running a sales process essentially. So fundraising became a large use case, and then the post sale became a large use case as well, that we weren't really thinking of initially. So onboarding, implementation, upselling, managing renewals, which is the end user being that customer success team or account manager, whatever the nomenclature that he uses. But those are really the three main ones. And then I won't get into like that. There's a really big long tail of journeys that are out there in the world. Parents creating journeys to tell them their kids' bedtime stories. A lot of fancy stuff that we don't really focus on. But ultimately, if you think of the genesis of what we're trying to do is create a new medium for storytelling that is more interactive and engaging than a PDF or a PowerPoint. It kind of can get pretty crazy in terms of the use cases, but we really focus on those 3 B2B ones that I mentioned.
Let's drill into that a bit more. So, post-COVID, we definitely see that there's this rise in digital selling, and that for salespeople or anyone in a customer-facing role to have a more digital way of communicating with people. You talk about storytelling there, and it's on the website a lot, and obviously the name of the company, Journey. Are you able to talk a little bit more about how you've thought about that? This isn't just a way of sharing files, not on email.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think a big part of it is like creating a narrative for your deal, and that might start with just using the buyer's words that you're hearing in that first call all throughout the cycle. Like, you're going to catch very specific terminology and wording that they use internally, and you can then take that and create content for them throughout the cycle. So I think that's one piece, and a lot of folks might just consider that like a business case, but you're continually building that business case in your buyer's words throughout the cycle. And I think the important piece is that Journey helps you kind of scale that across a buying committee. Like, it's not just one-to-one, it's one-to-many, where you need to engage multiple people that care about different things. And as you know, it's just very challenging in general. Sales is a tough job, and it's getting harder now with the points you just mentioned with digital selling. So we're not having as many at-bats with buyers. Like, the pull in the Gartner stats, like 95% of buyers prefer to have a rep-free experience. And then once they do pull in the rep, once they do contact sales, they're already 80% of the way there, because they've done all their research, they've talked to peers. So the last piece of it is like, so many products are so similar that buying is really hard, and your sales process can actually be the thing that stands out when you're in a competitive deal. And so that's why I think we're in this world of making the buying experience unique, collaborative, interactive, not just always having to hop on a call. Like, as a buyer, that was very cringe to me. Like, I didn't always want to hop on a call. I didn't want my team always having to hop on a call. Like, the world of gating information is very much going away. And I think in a world where all the information is out there, buyers can access everything. They can do all their research. They might know more about your product than the seller. Like, I think the opportunity here is to create unique, personalized content for your deal committee that they can't access on your website. And so I think the story, like, a lot of people say, facts tell, stories sell, and I think that's really important to understand. And I think the world of digital selling is very much real. Like, buyers are making big purchases now without meeting people in person. And I think that live synchronous time that you have with the buyer can be so much more productive if you're sharing things up front, you're collaborating with them asynchronously. And that live time could be more a discussion versus a pitch, or a more of a relationship building versus a pitch.
Yeah. And I'll get the stat wrong, but I think it was in last year's G2 buyer behavior report where they said something like 72% of buying processes introduce new people as it goes along, which makes perfect sense. There's never a sort of set point in time. There's always going to be new people coming afterwards, and it's like, how quickly do you get them up to speed? And this kind of format is a great way of introducing people that weren't there at the start of the process to be able to understand what's gone before.
Absolutely. I think every seller knows this. There's almost always, even if you ask the right questions up front early in the deal, an exec looped in late from finance is going to get looped in late. They're going to have little context. You're going to have to rely on that champion to relay everything. And so we hope that Journey and tools like it, quite honestly, can help get those people up to speed faster, so you don't lose momentum in the deal when that happens.
If you're up for it, I'd love to see your screen, and maybe we could talk through a couple of use cases, a couple of typical scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Can you see my screen?
I can indeed.
Awesome. So this is a Journey template. So pretty much every seller, you think of, after they might have 3 customer calls a day, whatever it might be. Every one of those calls hopefully has a next step, has a follow-up. That follow-up probably is going to be hopefully be seen by multiple people inside that organization. And so typically they'll start off with a template. So I've, right before the call, I pulled in here, this is actually we automatically pull in logos from URLs. So a seller will come in here, they'll customize the journey for the prospect, essentially. So this is pulled in from your website if I were selling to RevOpsCharlie. But essentially, every team's process is different, but the journey is a table of contents, and this can be as extensive as you want or as light. So right here, this has a lot of different things in here from a seller that might be in the middle of a deal. But ultimately, you're coming in here, you're creating imagery, you're writing text, and you're at the start of a mutual success plan if you're there, depending on the stage of the deal. So this is interactive with the prospect. And you can pull in decks. I think the important thing to note here is you can create content in Journey. So it's not just that you're slapping a bunch of PDFs into a space. Like, you can pull in, imagery, based on what your content is about. You can write text. If you have that intro call, and you want to pull in a call from Gong, like, you can do that. You can connect your Gong account. We can have AI summarize the call. You can create an initial business case from that call. And ultimately, you're just moving blocks around. So you're creating this unique buying experience with a bunch of different steps, creating this journey. And hopefully at the end of it, it's a contract or a proposal. Now, in this example, this might just be after that first or second call, so you're not there yet, but you're adding content based on how that conversation went, the assets they requested, the next steps that that ultimately were requested from that prospect. So this is what we call like the editing experience, and the output of this is your prospect is just accessing a link. So once it's ready to share, you come in here, you can share a link with the prospect, you can lock it down and make them, if you're sharing very sensitive information, have them sign an NDA, have them put in their email, password protect it, all that stuff that you might do if you're sharing sensitive information. I'll pause there. I want to make sure I'm explaining this well.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And do you see most users are they're starting from one template and they're cloning that all the time, or are they going back to basics each time and creating something custom for each customer?
Yeah, absolutely. We see typically the AE or the sales team will have a post demo follow-up template, and it might have a few pieces of content in there ready to go. Every deal is different, so templates will get you maybe 70% of the way there, 80% of the way there, and then we see them tweaking it for the deal. It might be where the journey starts a little further on into the process, so that template might be different. Like you might start it mid-cycle versus earlier in the cycle. It's kind of up to the seller on when they want to introduce journey into the process. And then obviously customer success is an entirely different template where that will be more AE handoff to CS, and more of a focus on onboarding, implementation, time to value, like that. Yeah.
Do you see people have one journey per customer and one sales process, or do you see that they start setting up, they use them, this is after this meeting, here's a journey, and we've done another meeting, here's another one, or is there this continuity as they just keep building it out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. We typically see one journey per opportunity. So journey might start off with 2 or 3 pieces of content. And just to show you an example, you might have this experience and you have another call with the client and you want to add, they ask you to add a product demo or something like that. You can come in here, drop in the product demo, and you're kind of just adding to the journey experience here. The idea is ultimately that the customer and the buying committee has one central resource for all the content, and maybe this product demo is specific to finance, so for the finance team. So you come in here, now this journey might look like has a bunch of stuff in it. If the finance team was sent this, they might be overwhelmed. However, what we typically see is that you can come in here and copy this link, a specific section for the finance team. So you're not actually sending them at the start of the journey, you're sending them right to this piece of content that is relevant for them, which is subtle nuance, but it's where the output of that is the journey experience looks very different for everyone that is receiving it.
Yeah, definitely doing some of the hard work for them so they don't have to orientate themselves. Just come, this is the bit that's useful for you as finance, or you as legal, you as security.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I guess just in terms of coming to the end of our session, how do you see Journey fitting in amongst some of the other players that are in that space? I know there's sales enablement platforms that have got kind of digital sales rooms. There are some others that are more dedicated digital sales rooms. What's the Journey vision to stand out in that market?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing, I think it's a good thing that the space is getting more competitive. It means that there's like a real need in the market. You have the sales enablement players who historically entirely were focused on sales readiness, sales training. The majority of the content was internal, and now they've flipped to have digital sales rooms, and I think it makes a lot of sense to focus on the buyer. And then you have like a lot of the startups that are like us that have popped up in the last couple of years. And then candidly, there's the sales, I would call them sales tech behemoths, because they do everything now, like Gong and Clary and SalesLoft and Outreach and ZoomInfo. Like I could see those companies starting to dabble in this space as well, because I think every sales process in the world that is somewhat of a higher ticket item has multiple people involved, has lots of content going back and forth, and you want to own kind of that content experience for the buyer to help it drive. Really, ultimately, what everyone's trying to drive is like, can you help me forecast in a more predictive manner? Can you help me hit my number in a more predictive manner? And understanding not only like what's happening on the call, but like a lot of selling happens, but what I call backstage now. It's not on the call. It's not live in person. It's not necessarily even over email. It's like in these digital spaces. And so it's kind of a lot of gold in terms of data for every deal that you can infuse into that forecasting methodology. So I think ultimately a lot of customers use CRM integrations with Journey to help them do that. Like, what deals, like, is it a real opportunity if they haven't looked at the journey? Is it a real opportunity if they haven't opened up the journey in a month? Probably not. Like if they're not opening up your content, they're probably not that interested.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a very useful signal. So I think in the grand scheme of things, I could see a lot of the large sales tech companies building something like a journey into their platforms, or acquiring companies in this space. And then I think what is unique for Journey, candidly, about when I'm thinking mostly about a lot of the companies in this space, is because we didn't start out as like a mutual action plan tool, or like a candidly not like a digital sales room type tool. We were more so, how do we go more higher level and focus on like, how can we be the content specifically that people create? Like we really look up to companies like PowerPoint and Google Slides and Notion, and even companies like Loom, Canva, Pitch.com. Like, I think the gold is really like being the content that people actually can create on the fly, versus just being a place to put a bunch of stuff into. Like, it's not everyone can kind of do that. Like, we initially we had a pivotal point in time when we just started the company, and everyone was kind of using us like DocSend, and it was like, okay, that's cool, but and yes, would I like to have a DocSend like outcome? I mean, they got acquired for close to 300 million. That's great, but like, it's also I don't think the world needs a better DocSend. I think a DocSend is great to like help you track PDFs. We're an interesting insight is like we see, there's probably thousands of deals that we're seeing, just the metadata in aggregate right now of like what content gets engaged with most in a deal cycle. And marketers might not love to hear this, but like the stuff that gets consumed most frequently and gets shared inside of organizations is the less polished, more authentic sales created content. So that's like stuff that's created by the seller. It might be a quick video recapping the meeting and next steps. It might be the call recording that's snipped with a quick highlight of what mattered most. It could be the mutual success plan that's created on the fly, or the business case. It's typically not the PDF deck or the marketing video that they could access on the website. So I think we're playing in this unique space of like net new content creation, personalized on the fly for people who are not designers. Like we're trying to be sellers, pseudo designers, and it kind of helps us stand out a little bit, because I think a lot of the other companies in this space are making it really easy for you to put a bunch of stuff together, or like making it really easy to create a mutual action plan, which both of those are valuable. I just think that we think about it a bit differently. And I won't get into like the hype of AI, but we've been working on AI stuff for like a year. So I think that plays a pretty big role into how we create journeys and how we personalize them, and some of the things that we do that are quite different and kind of crazy, candidly. I won't get too deep into it, but I think that helps us a bit.
That's fantastic, and that's absolutely been my experience. How I'm using it is to communicate quite complex audits and reviews of people's go-to-market strategies, and the ability to convey quite complex information, but in a nicely organized and easy to find your way around a platform. I'm getting lots of great feedback from people saying that was an easy way to consume something that was quite complicated. So that I absolutely understand there. As you're getting into the later stage of a sales process, it's a sales engineer sharing an architectural diagram. It's a project manager talking through a timeline. Potentially, it's this bespoke custom information being shared in a nice way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll leave you with one thing, because I think it's relevant. You mentioned, that it comes up so much that I think your audience will find it useful. But like towards the end of a deal cycle, you always have to expect that someone's coming in with little context and they're going to have influence. And so what we've done is actually given stakeholders the ability to have a conversation with the content. So if a CFO comes in super late stage into a deal, they can add in, the seller can actually add in what we call the journey bot. And the journey bot is an expert on all the content you put into the journey. It could be a PDF, it could be a video, really anything. And
Is that something you can show? Yeah.
Show it to you, to show you that it's real. So like, this is that template that I showed you before. It has a bunch of content in here. This is like kind of what you'd expect in a late stage deal. We got a bunch of call recordings. We have a bunch of feature stuff. We have product demos. We have reviews and case studies, calendars. And let's say the CFO gets this and it has maybe a 50-page contract in it by this time. The CFO could actually come in here and ask Journey AI, like, what are the key takeaways from this 12-page thing that I don't have time to read? And so Journey, essentially is going to take everything that you've put into this experience and it's going to answer questions. So as you can see here, I just asked Journey, what are the key features? And so in this template, we've put in things like resources, call recordings, insights on prospect engagement, product demos, things like that. Essentially even things like more open-ended. How does this simplify communication? Like, what is the benefit? And so this is getting, gets better every day, but ultimately this is what you could expect a prospect can do. This is like true asynchronous selling where seller doesn't have to gate all the information. Now, obviously, this is very early, but I think this is kind of where the future of selling is going, where you're gonna, I think, ChatGPT got to hundreds of millions of users very quick. Usage fell off a little bit, but that's mainly just because school is out. But ultimately, I think that the main takeaway for me was like, people really enjoy talking to this kind of like co-pilot, this expert, this robot. And I think you're going to see it more and more in larger, more enterprise deals to help just keep momentum up, keep context up. So this is brand new, but like we have a lot of, hundreds of teams that are testing this out right now, where the seller can add this in. And it gives the buyer ultimate free reign on asking any type of question. Like, let's see, what is the pricing of Journey? I don't think we have the pricing in this, so let's see if it throws up.
But I could absolutely imagine someone coming in and saying, what's the pricing model? What's the license options? What happens if I want to add on more users?
Right.
As I guess, as long as that content is there somewhere held within Journey in terms of a contract or an MSA or something, right, then it'll be able to pull that content out.
Exactly. So I'm happy here because it didn't answer it. It shouldn't answer it because we don't have the information in this, but it says, I'm sorry, but the cost is not mentioned in this. So as you can see here, but it gets, I think this is one thing that we're pretty excited about, making this, hyper relevant for an organization. Like, I think where the future of selling is going, you could imagine we train this on a company's internal data in a private cloud for them only. And it kind of can remove a lot of the friction from their sales process, because I think we're moving to a more frictionless process, I would say.
Yeah. And it's a great place to end, because you started off talking about, being at Quora and buying and how to enable a buying team. And we finish up there with a lovely view of how a buyer gets benefit from this, rather than just having a stack of links sent to them. They can actually start to speak to that content. So Brendan, thanks very much. How do people get in touch with Journey if they want to find out more?
Yeah, absolutely. You can check out journey.io. You can sign up for free. We have an amazing free plan that thousands of people use every month. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm Brendan at journey.io.
That's awesome. Thanks, Brendan.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie.